Alright, here we go. A quick unboxing of Bot Factory from Eagle Griffin Games. Box lid, box bottom, box lid again. Open the box. We have a rule book with words and pictures. And more words and more pictures. More words. Hey, guess what? Pictures and words and graphics. We have boards. We have a wheel on said board, but down. Give a board back. Wheel came off. Wheel back on. Board back. Score track. Board back. Board back. Inserts. Insert cover. Meeples. Sandra. Robot parts. Universal robot parts. Robots. Blue robot, yellow robot, and green robot. Little translucent cubes. Extra speech bubbles. What we have here, we have contracts. We have blueprints. We have solo parts. We have solo bits. Variant action tiles. Solo bot guy. Player pieces. Purple. Safety yellow. Blue. Orange. Meeple guy. Speech bubbles. Box bottom. Box bottom's bottom. Those are the components for Bot Factory. Let's get to the how to play. Alright, here we're going to a quick kind of how to play of the game. Not all rules will be covered, but most of them will. This is a worker placement kind of then you move your worker type of game. Your workers in the first round are going to start off the board. I have this set up for a 2-player game, which is how we played. And so that will be a slightly different, and I'll explain that as we go. So, at the beginning of the game, you're going to take your worker meeple, and you're going to put it on a spot down here at the bottom of these boards. In a 2-player game, there is a Sandra meeple right here. You cannot go on a board where the Sandra meeple is. Alright? So we'll go over the boards, and then I'll kind of explain as I'm going through. This board is you're going to be placing these parts up here. On this spot, you can do it 1 time, 1 to 2 times, 1 to 3 times, but you need to spend a speech bubble. 3 of the 4 boards have this executive action, which is up here. In this instance, you can spend a speech bubble to exchange a robot part you have with 1 up here during your turn. When you put 1 up here, you're going to get 2 speech tokens. If you put a second one in a color, you're getting 2 more speech tokens. If you put the third one, you then take the colored robot that you have just completed. If you cover these spots here, after collecting your rewards, you can then spend the speech bubble to take a robot part from the top of one of these stacks. When Sandra takes an action here, she's going to discard these pieces and then refill them starting with wherever this marker is. This marker is typically above them on the board, but I put it on the stack so you could see it as explaining. So that is board 1. You're basically putting out robot parts to collect the robots up top. Board 2 is where you get the robot parts. You can go here and you can get 1 to 3 actions and you can get a speech bubble. 1 to 4, 1 to 6. It comes with this little cube here, so you can keep track. So if you go to 1 to 3, when you spend an action 1, next action 2, next action 3, and that helps. The actions you can do, it's 1 action to spin this that many degrees. You'll line up these yellow lines. So that's 1 action. Another action is to take a robot part. Alright? Next, if you take a robot part from this one, you can see you can spend a speech bubble to then put the robot part out over here, and you do get the benefits of placing it. If these spots are empty and you move it up to here, you may immediately refill from those stacks however you want. The executive action on here, you'll see up here, is you can discard 3 robot parts to take one part of your choice from the top of a stack. What Sandra does is Sandra just refills all the spots, starting from this spot, working her way clockwise, and going from this spot and then looping around. So if it was green, she'd put out a green, the marker moved to red, she'd do red, and then so forth and so on. So that's board 2. Let's shift this down so you can see board 3. Board 3 is where you get these blueprints. This is the only way you are actually able to take a robot Meeples if you have a blueprint for that color. When you go here, you can either get 1 blueprint or 2 blueprints. When you get them, you just take them from up here. If you take this blueprint, you can spend a speech bubble to deliver a part over to that board. If you take this one, you just get a speech bubble. The executive action on this board is you can discard 2 blueprints to take a universal part, which can be used obviously on any color. Sandra's action is she is going to discard the bottom 2 if they're there, slide down, and refill from the stack. That's that board. Final board over here, your finance board, and this is where Sandra starts in a 2-player game. She does not take an action in the first round though, you just lay her down, which is what you do when you take an action. Put it there, after everyone puts it out, you go left to right, and then as you take your action, you lay yourself down. In the finance board, you can either spend 1 to 2 speech bubbles, 1 to 3, or 1 to 4. Spend these in 2 different ways. You can spend a speech bubble to push up these tracks, which is going to determine how much points the robots are worth at the end of the game based on where the marker is. When you pass this line, you can take a contract tile, and again, trigger its benefit. When you go past this line, you can deliver part over on the first board, again gaining its benefit. The other option you have of spending your speech bubbles is reserving contracts. Up to 2 people can do a contract, even in a 4-player game, only 2. What it is you spend the amount of bubbles, or speech bubbles, so 1, 2, 3. You return any beyond the first to the supply. So this one you won't return any. 1 would go to the supply, and then you put 1 speech bubble on the contract you want to reserve, 2 to the supply, 1 on where you want to reserve. If you're the first one, you're going to put it by the yellow. If you're the second one, you're going to put it by the little darker yellow area. At the end of the game, if you have robot Meeples that you can put on these contracts to fulfill them, you'll get the points listed up here, plus the points at the end. If you fail to complete them at the end of the game, you just get minus the points on the contract. Sandra's action on this board, she will push up the lowest value markers. If there's a tie, she'll push all of them that are tied, unless all of them are at the same level, and then she pushes up none. So in this instance, all 4 right there, so she wouldn't push up any. If this was there, she would push these 3 up 1. So again, you'll go through left to right, activating and doing your actions. After everyone, including Sandra, has done their actions, you go to a maintenance phase. In a maintenance phase, you will check back, let me move this board over here, on this board here, to see if any robots were completed. If they were, you're going to discard their tokens, you're going to come over to the finance board, and you are going to lower their value by 1. The next thing you will do is you will discard these bottom 2. If they're there, you'll slide tiles all the way down, and then you will refill the top spots. And then you go on to the next turn. So on the second turn of the game, and going forward, your workers are already on a board. Now, going from left to right, you will move your workers. You must move to a different board, and again, you cannot move to a board with Sandra. So in this instance, yellow would have to go to board 1 to board 3. The other thing I did not cover is, so say they went over here to board 1, and Sandra's on board 1. In order to do the action on board 1, you have to spend a speech bubble because Sandra's there. So that is how the game plays. You will go until someone either completes 5 contracts, or 5 blueprints, or all of one color Meeple is gone. You are limited at the end of your turn to have only 5 blueprints and 5 robot parts. So again, once the end game is triggered, you finish out fulfilling all the actions of that round. You then clear off this first board. You flip it over and you score points. You are going to score points for any robot you have completed based on their score over here on the finance board. Let me shove that over. Let me bring this board up here so you can see that. The finance board will tell you how much points they're worth right here on this side. You will then put any meeples you have onto the contract tiles, and you'll gain the points for those. Each pair of speech tokens you still have will get you 1 victory point. If you reserve the contract but are unable to complete it, then you'll lose the victory points in the space of your speech token. Each part tile that you have left in your supply at the end of the game loses you 1 point. Each blueprint costs you 2 points. Most points wins the game. Again, that is the very basic overview. There are a little bit more nuances to a couple of things, but that's enough to kind of get you an idea of how it plays. All right, now to these two lovely people to tell you what they thought of Bot Factory. Why, thank you, you wonderful set of hands, you. Yes, it is I, the groom, and you, the
bride,
here to give our thoughts on Bot Factory from Eagle Griffin Games. So, as is the standard of Merry Merry Meeple reviews, I'm going to distract with that. It's upside down. As is the typical flow, structure, outline of our reviews, we are going to start with the negatives. To me, I have a negative, she has a negative. They kind of may be playing with each other a little bit. My negative, and really almost as a testament to how fun the game can be, is that it tends to end too quickly. In a 2-player game, once either 3 of one color is done, or you complete 5, the game's over. Well, a lot of our games, it's usually the 3rd one gets built, and the game just all abruptly ends. I think we'd like it to go a little longer. We may eventually house roulette just to play longer, but I mean, this is based on the rules of the game. To me, it ends a little quickly. In that same regard, the limiting and all that leads into
my issue, or I shouldn't say my issue. What I don't like about it is that for the blueprints, you're only allowed 5 blueprints or 5 bot pieces.
And 5 bots. So 5 and 5.
Yeah.
But yeah.
5 bot pieces and 5 blueprints. And I think I would like to be able to have more of a variety, more of an option for the blueprints. Because by
the time you get that 4th one, that 5th piece, you're like only have that one color. If those aren't coming up, then you have to go and switch it out. And
yeah, so I think that's my only real. I don't even want to say dislike. My only real
down mark.
Yeah, because it's not even an issue. It's not a.
It's a preference. That might be your preference that you'd like changed. But.
Yeah.
But so then into the good stuff. I'm going to do rapid fire on a few things that are more production quality. It's insert is cool and functional, although they didn't quite tell you where everything went, so it did take a couple of quick seconds to think about it. So maybe it's a little drawback, but I mean, inserts nice, components are great, boards are well laid out, iconography on everything is good.
Yeah, it was a little confusing at the beginning until we got to realize which one was the production board and which one was the the parts board is pretty obvious.
But like the finance board and all those. So,
yeah.
So the terminology was a little confusing at first until you actually walked through it and saw the pictures, but just reading the rule book to someone, they're like, no.
Yeah, and I think it took, I don't know about you, but it took me a couple of plays before I was able to remember which one was which with the production and with the part, and yeah, so.
But, no, to me, it's enjoyable. It's really cool trying to figure out how to maximize all of your actions, and with the fact that you can't go back or you can't stay on the same board, so making sure you go to this board to set up for the other board. And in the 2-player version, having the Sandra Meeple, which I'm actually fine with as a 2-player variant with it, because it doesn't hinder you drastically. You can't go to a board she's on, but that kind of just makes you kind of try and think ahead of your movement, so it does kind of simulate having that third player there where they may be going to a spot you want to go to. And if you end up on the board with her and you only have to spend a speech token, it's mostly easy to get speech tokens even though they go quickly.
I have no problem getting speech tokens.
So,
I'm pretty good at collecting those.
So, I mean, it's not like it's a hindrance if you end up on her board and by her moving to your board. So that's not a big issue. But yeah, just trying to figure out, like, I got to make sure I go here so I have parts that I can do this board. Otherwise, you may have a wasted turn going to a board that you don't even really need to do anything on. So that is that nice kind of puzzly aspect of it.
Yeah, and I enjoy collecting the parts, and figuring out where I'm going to lay the parts, how I'm going to lay it out, what colors I'm going for. Well, what am I going up here? How much can I get it up to? For the money, the finance, which blueprints am I going to get? So yeah, I like that. That's my fun part.
I did notice in a 2-player version, we didn't do much with the executive actions.
Yeah.
I think once or twice maybe. So I don't know if that's something that's more prevalent in a higher player count, but that kind of falls into that whole thing when you're saying about how you'd like to be able to hold on to more. So when you go and are able to use those things for others, you're not having to like kind of counteract what you just did. You want to kind of be able to go up to build up all these bot parts to be able to go use elsewhere. But
I really don't think at least the games that we've played, you really didn't need to use those executive orders. I mean, they pretty much, I know, like the couple that Sandra does, that her actions are kind of reminiscent of the executive order or
executive actions a little bit.
Right. So it's like we really.
I think the only one we really
didn't
used
need to.
was the universal. That was the main one that we do. Is we just go and get the universal just in case the bot parts were coming up.
Yeah, which it does occasionally. You may need that head, and it's gonna take you a while. But yeah.
But yeah, other than that, so I'm pretty sure we both enjoy the game. There is a variant in it where you get these little bonus action tiles, and that really doesn't even add any complexity to the game. It basically just gives you a one-time per game ability to use. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, to me it's fun. It's quick. Even with you with being AP prone, it still moves relatively speedily.
Quickly.
It does move along quickly even with us. Like, I think we were shocked when we played it the first time. We're like, oh wait, wow, we are done already. Cool.
Yeah.
So it is a nice fast play, but really thinky because it does have the chaining actions. I think this is what, like 30 to 45.
It says 30 to 60 minutes, and I think that 60 minutes is going to be more
like the 4 players.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to me it's a good game.
I think we did our games in usually about a half hour.
Half hour to 40.
Yeah.
So. But yeah. So again, Bot Factory, if you have a chance to pick it up. Like I said, this is a Vital Lacerda game, which are typically supposed to be super heavy, but this was a simplified version, which is what drew us to it. So this is kind of right in our wheelhouse of trying to plan out the economy and the movements. So
without being too overly thinky.
Yeah. So I would say if you like the worker placement and then being able to try and chain actions and optimize your movements and such, go ahead and pick this up. Good production. All right. So, time to motor on out. Burp, 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 burp.